Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Welcome to another compilation episode of Metautism podcast. Today, we're focusing on technology and innovation, a topic that deeply affects how we work, how we learn, and how we communicate with each other. For autistic people, technological innovation helps to reduce everyday barriers, support communication and learning, and creates new opportunities for independence, employment, and inclusion. And on our podcast, we did have some guests who shed some light on that topic. Our first lesson or insight comes from Jakob Hakonsson, experienced designer at Versabi, a virtual reality studio that brings value from virtual, augmented, or mixed reality technologies. Whether it's for job training or helping autistic individuals navigate the job market, it's definitely life-changing. And Jakob gave us the insight into the inclusive and iterative design processes that result into engaging VR and smartphone experiences.
Yeah, so some software companies, maybe they have like one product and that's based on something that they have found frustrating and they're trying to change something. And it's based on their experience, basically. They do something that they would like to use. And that's fine, but that's not always a fitting sort of strategy to take. So we have many projects for many different clients, many different target groups, really. So it's really important that we get to understand who are they and what is important to them and what makes sense to build and what should we focus on? We use a lot of co-design, so we bring in the customer and we sketch together. Maybe they write it on Post-its and I just draw it on a whiteboard simultaneously and ask, what about this? So we really try to bring them in the design process and ask and then understand them because, they are usually quite far from us. We reach markets that have not used extended reality technologies before, so they don't know anything about the technology. But at the same time, we don't really know anything about that market, warehouse staff. How do you pack a pallet? I don't know because I haven't worked in a warehouse. So I need to ask and I need to find out. And it's really a collaborative process that we try to build. I like to say that design is communication. We're trying to solve something, communicate something, but visually instead or through audio or so on. Through design, communication is key. And I think that's also going to be something that comes back into this project related to autism, that we really need to understand each other. So we need to bring these people in and we need to talk and we need to come up with what makes the most sense to do.
Yeah, you are also speaking about diversity in the workplace. Maybe people who you are speaking with are not directly your colleagues, but they are working on a project with you. And many studies have actually shown that diversity in the workplace brings so much more creativity, progress, better solutions, and so on. But you also have, for example, two friends on the autism spectrum, and I want to know how do they impact your life or influence you as an experienced designer?
Most of all, I get reminded again of the need for communication. And how do we do that in the best way? So, like I said, I have two friends on the spectrum. Both of them actually got diagnosed only a couple of years ago, and one of them I've known for 10 years. So that's quite interesting where, the facts are the same, it's the same relationship, but then you understand it from a different way. They're also very different people, just personality-wise and everything like that. It's very different, and that brings back to the old saying, like if you've met one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. So I think again, you need to communicate, and while doing so, challenge your assumptions, because something that I've learned a lot both in my professional and private life is that just because something is different from what I think doesn't mean that it's worse. It's just a different idea. So with design, I like to not put too much ego into it. Of course, I have my background, I have my expertise, and I stand by opinions that are based on that. But I don't want to make something like a darling that I refuse to let go just because it's mine. So you got to challenge your assumptions and maybe be a bit humble in a way as well, that what you know is not necessarily always correct or always the best, especially when you're working with a target group that's even more different from you than you think. So you just got to keep that open mind and the discussions open and non-judgmental.
And I'd argue this approach is applicable far beyond XR. It's applicable in general design, in website and app development, in architecture, in building school systems, and far more. If you're wondering how, for example, immersive technologies are revolutionizing vocational education and training, Lorenda Dalto knows. He's CEO and founder of Mimbus, where they're developing solutions that enhance training for manual training while addressing diverse training needs. And if you're wondering how immersive technologies like VR, AR, MRXR work in such training, here's how.
Well, basically, you will put the headset, and once you are in the headset, so you can imagine that everything around you will become something else. You are completely immersed into virtual reality world we created. And the first thing you will see is a map, a kind of 3D map of a town. And in this town, you have some flags that shows different trades. So you can go for plumbing, you can go for electricity, you can go for whatever, different kind of jobs. So you pick a job and you are then projected into the worker situation. So for instance, you will be in a corridor, and as an electrician, they will tell you one of the outlets on the wall is not working. So try to find which one is not working and try to replace it. We have wide variety of content. One of the things that we often use as an evaluation also is scaffolding, because we ask you to move on top of a scaffolding. And there we can evaluate if you are afraid of height, if you have vertigo or not. And that is very important because lots of jobs require you to go on top of a building and you will not be able to go through that job. So that's what we're trying to do in each of our sample. We train to evaluate the transversal skills. That would be concentration, space recognition, reading a drawing, all that things. So the activity is just an excuse that enable us to track professional skills. And by combining all those experience, because you will do maybe 5, 6 experiences that last between 10 and 20 minutes maximum, at the end, we will get a kind of map of your talent, of your skills. And from that, we can drive you to a job or a trade that will fit your talent. We were thinking we need to create content dedicated to autism. They say from the beginning, you are autist, so we will provide you with content dedicated to you. And what we experience is that, no, we're using that for autistic people. And the way they're using it make us improve the content for everybody. And that's very interesting because, as you said, the problem is the same for every kid. It works for autistic people, but it works for kids in general. They don't know the way, what they can do and all that things. The difference with autism is that some jobs are very complicated for autistic people. And by practicing in virtual reality, but in real, the people understand why they won't be able to go that way. So maybe there's some process like that. We have been able to validate it over the time. So today, what we're doing with Otema, we're building up a kind of process, kind of protocol, where depending on the people in front of us, we will make them test different kind of experience, and we will evaluate them, and we will try to help them. And maybe through several sequences, we're trying to combine all the feedback we had since 2 years to really provide something that will be like a handbook.
And our last insight comes from Zoltan Kelemen, project lead at Learn Virtual Europe. They provide advanced training solutions, especially in welding and skilled trades. The company integrates VR and real-time interactive simulations to enhance hands-on training, allowing learners to acquire critical technical skills in safe and controlled environment. And here's why such solutions are so effective and worth investing in.
We work with simulators with different type and level of simulators for different skills. That's because it is very cost effective first, and there are many cases where it's very effective in learning. For example, when we teach a welder, the movement the welder tries to learn, like a small line, drawing very strictly, that could be very difficult because we really can't control the movement. And this movement could be done very wrongly, and the feedback in a real world would be very crucial and very late, because we have to wait when it just cools down, we have to break it, and after we see what happened, but it's very late because the learner has the muscle memory already with a very wrong movement. And a kind of simulation, when there are no waste of time, we can immediately could give a good feedback and try to make adjustments to the learner. And beside of this, it's not just welding, that's just an example. This is true for all of our solutions in driving or forestry machines or tower cranes or even wall painting. It could be, or stone masonry, because we have new solutions in stone masonry. We have this kind of approach, and we try to offer this as a mission to, in the Hungarian schools at least, and all around in the Central European region. So we'd like to offer a very good solution, because now this is a new technology, and we don't want to build like the well-known software strategy when you just build year by year and expires the warranties and so on. No, we have a lifetime support, and we have a lifetime license, because we understand what goes on in schools, and we'd like to make a good basement to improve the whole level of the education.
The things you're working on are not something that you started recently. So you already have over 10 years as a company, but your founder and also you and your team are very experienced in this type of approaches to learning.
With certain simulators, we have a longer experience with not really simulators, but so-called flat screen solutions, motion control solutions. And that's where we were invited in this project, because we think that hard skills could be transferred into certain types of soft skills. Because in this world, I mean, the persons with autism has problems with soft skills when introducing themselves, or how to get to places, or easily distracted, or not easily find a way how to communicate, and they need a kind of practice or separation. These virtual reality and simulation environments could provide them a kind of isolated, very customizable to different needs. And that's why we're here in this project, because we tried it with different people with autism, and they have very promising feedbacks.
Thank you so much for tuning into this very special compilation of Metautism podcast. I hope these amazing insights intrigued you into these amazing solutions. And if you want to hear more, we do have other compilations focusing on employment and autism in general. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until the next time, keep spreading awareness and kindness. And of course, thank you to the Erasmus Plus program of European Union for funding this project. All opinions are our own. Thank you once again, and bye-bye!